Okay, hello again. I'm going to now go over some of the grading that we can do in Google Classroom. Pretty quick and easy. I don't want to take too much time on this because there's a lot of different ways you could do it, and really experimenting and understanding is kind of at the foundation of where we need to be at. Okay, so first of all, I redid my classroom. I set it up like a general class that I actually this is the classroom model that I recommend for classroom teachers. It would look a little different for co-teachers, but this is what I think that is the best model. I use this model from basically my past experiences in running Google Classrooms, and also just kind of some of the research that shows that we need a classroom structure that is something that is essentially functional and repetitive. So it has a structure to it that never changes, basically. And I'm going to talk about how we can sort of update this classroom on a weekly basis, and also go over how the grading is. So here's kind of like the overview of the classroom. We have the announcements, objectives, check-ins, videos. And then I have assignments and archive. These are done in an order that is conducive to kind of how a student would scroll on their page. So let's take a look at what the student would see if they come to this classroom. Okay, so this is the student view right here. It looks exactly like the teacher view. They can see their announcements, objectives, check-ins, videos, and assignments. Okay. Now I'm gonna. This classroom is very the way that it's set up. It's set up in a 1 week rotation. I don't have all of the elements plugged into this classroom, but I think that you can kind of fill those in with your mind. You need a collaborative location so that students know where to come and have some direction. We can set up Google Meets for that sort of collaboration whenever we're working from home. I'm not going to go over how we generate those links. We should all know that at this point. But on the objectives, I treated the objectives similar to a syllabus. So you'd have like your week one, and you want to be super deliberate. So with your labeling and titling. So for example, on your day one, I would, instead of putting day one stuff, I would probably put something like, um, I'd put my Bloom's taxonomy and as to whatever that objective is for the day. So learning how to add, 2-digit equations or something. And then you would have your check-in for day one. And this is like a checklist. They can watch the video and then do their assignment for day one. And I also am very deliberate about naming the assignments. They should be identically named to the assignment that's in the actually assignments categories. So in other words, if this math behavior was my assignment for day one, I'd put math behavior right there. Okay. I can't edit this one as it is. I've chosen to look at the student version, but let's just say that for the fun of it, I could update it here. Math, I forget the name of it now. Math behavior, okay? And now I'm going to go ahead and send a word of caution. I edited this after I had already submitted it to Google Classroom and into the particular download. So this version that I click on, it will have that math behavior, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the student version will have it. And I'll kind of tell you there's a technical reason behind it. So like this did translate, but in my experimentation throughout the year, that was one of the bugs in Google, where sometimes it would not translate to the person. So what I just as a rule of thumb, make sure that you have your objectives already completed before uploading them as a material whenever you're creating your assignment, okay? So I'm glad that that actually did do that, but normally you'd want to have a complete objective list before uploading, okay? So my daily check-ins, I would have like, for example, a quick little, hey, this assignment is great, yes or no, hit yes, and then turn in. and then basically that's my check-in. It's really nice because it will communicate some pretty quick data over to the classroom as to whether or not my kid is present. Loving the interaction there, and also it's easy to put those elements of information into the grading. Next, I have a little video representation. This is extremely important for our kids that need resources. I recommend that we essentially read to our kids, and so we can set up videos with us reading the material and stick them right here, and then turn around in the assignments and ask questions about those videos. So that way we kind of get the best of both worlds. We have differentiation kind of built in. Students that maybe don't need resources still have the resources made available to them. So a lot of those students aren't going to waste their time on me reading a book to them. So good for them. However, maybe there's some caveats mixed into those videos that, the assignment isn't going to maybe have, and they need to pull from that understanding. So that's kind of how I was managing differentiation. And also, just as a reminder, these videos, when we assign them, you don't necessarily need to assign the videos to all of your students. You can assign the videos only to the students you want them to have the videos. So keep that in mind when we're making the assignments. I'll demonstrate that real quickly. So say I do my assignment and I want to come into all students. Normally there's a student list here, and all I got to do is check the students that I want to see those, and now I've kind of created more of a separation from what students that don't need videos versus students that do need videos. Okay, so that's just an example of kind of creating some differentiation for my students, and maybe creating a little bit more difficult. We can actually do this on another level, where we can have various assignment versions for the students. And so I would do that as well. So maybe I had a low, medium, high assignment. I can upload all three. I know where my students are. I can assign what I want to each of the students, and now I've created the differentiation. And maybe some of those high students aren't quite getting it. I can assign them the lower version, and then now they are back to the level, and we can move those students up when we need them. Okay. So that's kind of how I use that. And then, of course, your assignments. Now, the last thing I have is an archive. Very quickly, I'll just kind of show you the archive. What you do at the end of each week is you take each of the items that you see here, objectives, check-ins, and videos, and what you'd want to do is go through a renaming. And so what I might do is rename this as week 1, and then I want to make sure I have that video named, and then I want to change this to say archive, okay, and then hit save. All right, now when I do that, it's going to take it out of the videos and put it down here. And the reason why you want the word video is because, well, obviously when you're looking at a large archive, you want to be able to see these assignments, say, listed as week 1, and then you would say assignment, and then you can do it like this. You can use a bunch of different methods to label it. I don't know what the best way is, but I would probably just like copy this, and then I would essentially drop it in my archive. So just a quick little best practice: whenever you go to start dropping all these into your archive, what I recommend doing is working from the very bottom all the way to the top. And when you do that, these will kind of pop in here in the same order and it'll look like objectives are at the top for week 1, check-in day 1, video day 1, your assignments for week 1, sorry. And then they'll be nice and neat in here. And so like that's extremely important, especially in the case of students that miss, say, a week of school due to illness or something like that. Now they can go back into the archive, they can look for what week it is, and we can give that communication to those parents and students. Hey, this is where your stuff is, please get this done. Or maybe I kind chisel it down a little bit for the student, and they can do a smaller chunk of that assignment. Okay, so next I want to talk about the grades and how that works. The first thing I want to do is I want to direct your attention to the cog, and when you click on it, there's a grade calculation thing that Google has all set up. I want to kind of point out that there's a couple different ways to look at your grading. You can do total points, you can do weighted by category, which is the way I have it chosen here. Now, no overall grade, let me show you where that translates to. So when I go to my grades section, right here it has overall grade, and this is the section that you really want to kind of this is kind of like an overall average for that student, okay? But it depends on how you set up your grading structure, okay? So what I did was I created weekly grades during the distance learning. A teacher might want to use 6 weeks averages or something like that, or they might want to do like grading based only on English grades or history grades. Like for example, an elementary teacher might want to say, I want to see what little Johnny has in English. So with a couple of clicks, they can see their overall English grade, or they can go in and figure out how they're doing on assessments. So they can go in and figure out what they do on assessments. Now, all of this is based on one thing, and that is how we categorize our classes. Okay, so like for example, in this testing assignment, for example, we go to the grading category, and so like I have some grading categories in here already. Okay, and this is going to depict the mapping for how that grade is calculated. Okay, this is mapped to science right now, which is totally great. Maybe I want it done to math, or maybe week 1. I don't know. You can do these to anything you want, though. All right, and these are usually these are based on what you put into the cog. Okay, so what I have here is going to be translated to the grading category over there. So I can have all my English grades be compiled, or all my math grades be compiled, or all my grades be compiled, and that's done by this percentage here. So notice I have English hit at 100% right now, okay? So if I go back to grades, you'll notice, look, my overall grade is 100%. But look, as I can see, Jimmy has 100 in check-in 1, testing is at 80, and week 1 assignment is 75. So that doesn't make any sense, okay? 100 plus 75 plus 80 plus 100, and the average of those is not going to be 100. But if I look a little closer, I'm going to see that science, math, and English, this one's not even labeled. So let's go ahead and edit and label this one right quick into a grading category. And maybe I do want for this particular check-in to be just a week 1 check-in, okay? So now I have week 1, it didn't change. I have science, math, and English. So how can I get his overall average? Well, I can come into here. I can go ahead and decide that I want week 1 to be part of the grading. I can do English as part of the grading. Math as part of the grading. And I think I had a science as part of the grading. And so once I hit save, I'll double check it, math, science, English. Now my grading is at 87.5, and that is the average of these 4 grades right here, okay? So that's how, what I would do is I would typically on a, just for my, I didn't want to do any work during the, on my grading per se. So instead of having English, math, history, and science, I would have week 1, week 2, and I went all the way down. And then what I would do is I would assign every single assignment in week 1 to, week 1. And I wouldn't have these different grading elements in here because I'm only a math teacher. And so what I did was I would assign everything to week 1, and then I could get a overall grade from it. Now, see, right now I have week 1. Why didn't it change? Because it's only pointing at this one thing, and that's it. So when I change it, I actually have to return the grade, and that's going to allow me the update overall. And so that's a little bit about how the grading works, okay? So you can play with these. You're going to want to set them to the way you want. Usually you want your grade book set up at the beginning of the year, but some of these things, they can be changed. Everything is mapped. If I change it here, it's going to change it on the assignment. So it'll stay all mapped the way that you need it, okay? Um, that's kind of how it works. Notice whenever I do change different things, I can assign weights to the grades. So maybe instead of these saying English, math, history, and science, I might have something like daily assignment, check-ins, and tests or something. And then that's whenever I would have, say, daily assignments are 20%. And then I could say that my regular assignments are 20% and my tests are 60% of my grade. And so, like, if I did that, it would change the weight of everything. And then for your more advanced classes that you need that in, you could actually, especially in middle school and high school, when I'm only teaching like one particular assignment, that's how I would want to set my grade book up. In fact, you can do the same weight arrangement in teams, and then that's kind of how we can get the information, okay? So that's a little bit about the grading and how it translates. I'm not going to go over the total points. Some teachers, they like total points, and you actually play to, say, a 1,000 scale, and all you're doing is trying to gain points to get to 1,000. That's one way to kind of think of it. Say I have 10 assignments, and each of those assignments are 100 points. And so you tell the students, you're playing to 1,000. Once you get to 1,000, you got your A or something. And so you can set your whole grade book up to where everything is based off of points. I don't like that very much. It's kind of a preference because then I had to translate the points into percentages just for my other grade books. So I like weighted by category. It's a lot easier for me. All right, so that concludes grading, and I hope that that helps you guys out when you're creating your grades for your classrooms, and I hope that you can make use of how those percentages work. Have a good day.